What's the point, Flocks and Tomatoes, and welcome back to another Govee review. Nope, where's my hat? That's better. Welcome back, all you Flocks and Tomatoes, and you're here for a review on the Govee T3 Pro. That's right, T3 Pro. It's been a long time coming, and I promised soon as I got it, I was gonna do a review with it. I have had it for about a month now. So here in this video, I'm gonna share with you my impressions between the T2 and the T3 Pro. I'm not gonna cover the T3 Lite because I don't think there's any need to. So these are the main contenders. Now, as I said, it took a while for Govee to actually release this, but now it's here. Is it worth the upgrade? Now, the T2 is still a solid backlight TV camera compared to anything else that's on the market, but this is the new contender. And I gotta say, it is way better. And how is it way better? Let me show you. Let's move away from this because I am going to show you some comparisons between the two. But right now, I don't want to be talking about this anymore. I want to be talking about this, the new one. So we've got a lovely box right here, which is the standard Govee stuff, as you can see. And in the back here, it just shows you all the bits and pieces that you get in the box. Open it up. Then you get the basic paperwork as usual. So you get a bag with the camera, and then you get the controller. And then you have another two boxes. On this bottom box here, you get the LED strips. Now in the second box, we get the USB-C to USB-C. We get the power supply. We get the orange calibration squares as usual. We get some clips, alcohol wipes to clean down the back before you apply the LEDs. And in this bag, we get this new controller. Now the new controller does look a lot more slick, has less buttons on it compared to the previous T2. So in essence, you get less functionality from the actual control box compared to the T2. And then last but not least, you get the new 3-lens camera system. So I'm showing you exactly what's in the box. Move that to the side. Now let's come back to this camera. Now the new camera is a way better constructed device. The T2 is still really good, but this just takes it to another level. Now, the differences between the T2 and the T3 Pro is now that we have 3 cameras. Now, the positives of that is that it's going to allow the cameras to pick up more data, more information on the screen, which is going to allow the LEDs to provide more of an accurate representation of what you are viewing. Now, you're going to notice there is a lot of difference in the design. So you've got a thinner neck here and a wide head, which enable them to get those 3 cameras in there. And the base has a heavier feel to it, which means it's going to be able to balance a lot better than the previous one. So you notice on the T2, it is a lot narrower. Okay, so when it's balancing on top of your TV, there is more of a chance that this could rock. Because the base of this isn't too wide, you might get some tilting while it's at the top of your TV screen. Now this has been created way better for any screens that have really thin panels. Okay, because you got the flat bit there and then you can adjust it. Okay, so it will sit flat at the back of your TV. Now looks wise, this part is really big, but as I said, it sits behind your TV compared to this little lip here. Weight-wise and counterbalance, they're kind of the same. To be honest, I'm not gonna feel that much different. But as you can see, the heads of the camera is way bigger on the T2 compared to the T3 Pro, and the T3 Pro now has 3 cameras in it. Now, when it comes to the back and the finishing on it, I do like the T2 more than the T3 because it's just black, but you know, most of the time you're not gonna see that. And it also depends on what the decor is in your room. Is if this fits in well, whereas black, you know, you're not gonna have too many problems. But now you've got the 3 cameras, means that you are gonna pick up more what's on the screen. And the main thing about this is that you're gonna get a better representation of what's on your screen coming out through the LEDs. So just like the previous models, the T3 Pro does come in a 55 to 65 inch and a 75 to 85 inch. Now the LED strips are way brighter, I've got to say, and do punch a lot more color out. You do get more LEDs per inch. So really, for most of you out there, you have seen the T2, you've seen the T3 Lite. So let me focus on the real big improvements, which first of all come inside the app. So the app right here has a load of different functions. You got the video, you got color, you got scene, you got this illumination on. Okay, so you can just turn it on and it's just going to be white. You got music, you got share space and all the other things that you've seen on the previous versions. But moving down here, we've got these 4 different settings now. So you can use game, but you can also have solid, vivid, smooth, and delicate. And I'll show you these in just a moment. but also you can do the same for movie. Now, I would say once you set this once, you're probably not going to go in there and want to be changing it all the time, but now it's going to give you the ability to tune it in exactly how you like it compared to the T2. Now, moving here, you've got this AI filter. I haven't played around with this too much, but it does enable the AI to kind of take control a little bit, to give you a preset to kind of what you're watching. So more in-depth configuration of your settings. Now, moving on to the HDR effects, and this is where it really shines. So previously, you didn't have so much dynamic range when it came to the T2, but now with the T3 Pro, you have that. Now, when we talk about dynamic range, it's the difference between darks and the lights. So it's going to be able to show more of a representation of what's on the screen compared to just loads of lights. Now, moving on to the sound effects, where it's going to enable you to have more of a dynamic presentation of what's on the screen, but also what you hear. So if you've got any loud bangs, then it will get brighter. And when it's a more quieter scene, it will dim down a little bit. So I think that is kind of cool there. Now, moving on to the black bar elimination, I think this is really good, especially if you're watching those movies, then they have a big black bar at the top and the bottom. Previously, the T2 would try and work that out, but it didn't work as well. But now you've got the ability to actually turn it on if you're watching one of those movies. It's not going to automatically do it, so you got to remember to switch that on and off. And the last thing is the blank screen setting. So if you forget to turn off your T3 Pro, it will turn off itself if there's nothing being displayed after a preset amount of time. Okay, let's look back at what the T2 provided us. So with the T2, you only got the 3 settings on the top right here. You do have the AI filter now, which is an update, color calibration, which is a standard, and the sound effects is still there in the blank screen. And as you notice, there's way more that they've added to the T3 Pro compared to the T2. The T2 doesn't even have the illumination, which I think is, super cool, even though you can just turn the color on and kind of does the same thing. Okay, let's move on to the side-by-side comparison between the two screens. So we have the T2 on the left, and we'll have the T3 Pro on the right. So you'll be able to see what you're actually getting on this upgrade. So what you've been waiting for is the comparison between the T3 Pro and the older T2. Now, straight off the bat, we are starting with a blank screen where we've got a little bit of a logo in the middle, but the rest of the screen is black. Now, in the T2, you'll notice a little bit of a halo going around the outside, showing that the LEDs can't completely turn off. But on the T3 Pro, you'll notice there's no haloing going on, but it is representing the subscribe at the bottom of the screen with the red LEDs, whereas the T2 is not doing that at all. So this is a screen test part of the video, and you can see the comparison between the colors of the T2 and the T3 Pro. Now, the T3 Pro does have a setting on there which enables you to do auto white balancing. So the auto white balancing have been set on the T3 Pro, whereas in T2, you got to do it manually. So there is a slight difference between the warmness of the T3 and the T2. The T2 is much colder, whereas the T3 is a lot warmer. So you can see straight away that the T3 Pro is a lot more saturated, but the settings for both of these devices have been set to game and vivid. The color is 50% and the brightness is 100%, but the T3 Pro does enable you to be a lot more saturated at a lower percentage. Now, there is the ability to tone down the saturation of the T3 Pro to match with the T2, but I just set it as 50% so you can see the differences straight off the bat. So I've paused it right here just to show you the difference. You've got more of a fiery orange going on with the T3 Pro and a faded out yellow on the T2. And then once again, when it comes to the darker edges of the screen, you'll notice that the T3 Pro is able to manage those colors a lot better. With the T2, when there is a dark patch on the screen, it tends to turn the LEDs to the lowest level that it can of a white, whereas the T3 Pro can turn them completely off or match what's going on the rest of the screen. Once again, another example here, you'll notice that the T3 Pro is a lot more saturated than the T2, but it does represent the colors a lot better and stronger with a lot more intensity. Now at this point, you'll notice that the greens on both of the T2 and the T3 Pro are almost the same. When we look at the left-hand side of the screen, there is more pinks, whereas the T3 Pro has a bit more of a red tinge to it. So in this particular example, the T2 is winning, but when you see the crossover between going from red to green, the T3 Pro is doing a way better job than the T2. Let's check out this color wheel, and the settings have now been changed to movie and smooth with 50% color and 100% brightness. And you'll notice in this that the T3 Pro is able to transition from one color to another, whereas in the T2 you can see a lot more separation. Again, we'll come to another blank screen, haloing on the T2, and all the LEDs are off on the T3 Pro. Now in this next clip, the settings are on game and vivid, 50% and 100% brightness. And the T3 Pro for me is doing a way better job in managing all the different colors and the brightnesses of the screen, whereas the T2 seems to be doing a lot more aqua with a little bit of purple, but not providing as much variation as a T3 Pro. So in this particular scene, it's up to more your own preference. But lastly, at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice there is a bit more purple going on, which matches what's on the screen with the T3 Pro, whereas the T2 doesn't show that at all. Now in this next clip, you'll notice that the T3 Pro is showing a lot of saturation, but it is matching the colors of what's been displayed. Whereas in the T2, you've got a lot of variation going over there, which doesn't really represent what's going on the screen. You've got more of a pale orange on one side and then leading into a red on the other. Whereas in the T3 Pro, it's more or less orange all the way around at different saturation points. Once again, in this clip, the T3 Pro is outshining the T2, showing a lot more variation in the coloring. And as you can see in the background, on the left hand side, it's got a yellowy type of pinkish color, which represents what's on the screen. Whereas in the T2, it's almost all purple. Then looking on the right hand side, you've got all blue on the T2, but you've got more of a purple leading into a blue with the T3 Pro. In this next scene, there isn't much going on the screen, but we just got the animal in the middle. Now on the T2, you notice above the animal is kind of a bluish grayish representation of what's on the screen. And then the side, you've got like a golden kind of color. So it kind of matches there, but with a colder tinge to it. On the T3 Pro, you'll notice that the color of the animal is more matching all the way around. But then when you look at the gold around the sides, at the back of the water, it doesn't really look as good as it does with the T2. So you get more variation going from dark to bright, whereas in the T2, there's a lot more light spread. Now, if you're looking at this screen right now, we're not able to see exactly what's going on because of the TV stand. But if you look to the right on the T3 Pro, you'll notice you've got that color that relates to the animal, whereas on the T2, you don't have that at all. Now in this clip, I gotta say this is where the T3 shines. You'll notice that it's able to create more of a brownish, goldish color that matches with what's going on with the greens on the screen and the black, whereas the T2 is not able to produce that at all. Also on the T2, you'll notice the greens are very much off from what's displayed on the screen, whereas the T3 Pro, it is a much better match. Now, a lot of you out there are probably using this for gaming. So let's look at the differences between the two devices when playing something like Cyberpunk. Now in this game, there is a lot of aqua colors going on and the T2 is presenting that quite a lot. Whereas the T3 Pro is able to pick up many different colors that are on the screen and represent them through the LEDs. So moving on to a section where there is more reds going on the screen and the T3 Pro is killing it. It really is doing a good job. It's able to get some whites in there as well, whereas the T2 is just blasting us with lots of aqua. And last but not least, let's get into some action type of scenes. So we're going to be driving. So there's going to be a lot of changes in the colors going on the screen. And now you'll be able to see how well the T3 does compared to the old T2. So let's move on to my top 10 pros and cons. So now showing you the side-by-side comparison, and then you got an understanding of what these can do compared to each other. Let's move on to the strengths and weaknesses. So one of the strengths of the T3 Pro, it is the first HDR triple lens camera to hit the market. So if you purchase this now, really great for future-proofing because the T2 has been out for almost 2 years now. So this, I'm sure is gonna last you 2 years or even more because I can't see them doing too much more than what they've done with this one. Next up is the fact that it's 30% brighter because we have 30% more LEDs, not on the camera, obviously, on the LEDs that go around the back of the TV. So it accommodates for those bigger spaces. When it comes down to the design, as we've spoken about before, this works better on your flat screen TV and any other TV, to be honest, compared to the T2. So less likely to be bumped, nudged, fall off, break, or anything like that. And it actually does look more premium when it's on top of your TV. With the T3 Pro, you now have more setting options in the app, which include the following: the white balance wizard, which helps you out. Instead of you going in and trying to configure it yourself, just press a button and it does all the white balancing for you. Even though it needs a little bit of tweaking, I think Govee will improve on that. The HDR camera connected with the HDR tools inside the app, which provides a better immersion into the experience. Now in the app, they've added another setting, which is called illumination. You can select color or you can select illumination, which enables you to jump back and forth between those settings without having to go in and reconfigure the color that you want. And then also you can't forget about those modes. So now you have an additional mode called delicate, which softens things down a little bit for you. And last but not least, those updated LEDs, which enable better color reproduction. Now let's move on to the cons compared to the T2. And the first thing is the price. Currently with a sale on the T2, which is probably going to be the basic price now, the T3 Pro is $80 to $90 more than the T2. Now the next thing is not really a con, but it's kind of like the T2 does a lot and does it really well. This does step you up into the next bracket, but for some people, it might be a little bit of overkill to be purchasing this when this can do the job that you need. And then the last thing that goes to both of these devices is the fact that the DreamView integration takes away a lot of the settings and configuration that you can use with all the other Govee lights that you might have in your room. So maybe Govee, please, and make that a way better experience. Now I can't miss out the fact that the T3 Pro, you can add up to 8 devices in total, whereas the T2 can only do 5. So with all that out of the way right now, if you decided which one you're thinking about purchasing or upgrading to, use the link in the description and I will see you in the next video. So for now, peace, peace, peace.